For those of you who maybe don't know, a few weeks ago I used something called Oxygen Updater to basically trick my OnePlus Open into downloading and installing Android 14 in the form of the Indian ROM so that I could get those features a little bit earlier and talk about them and explain them to you here on this channel. Since then, I have been sort of trapped on the Indian track. I've been waiting for the full download in Oxygen Updater to arrive for me to switch back to the North American track. But this morning, something kind of strange happened. I was using my OnePlus Open, and I got a pop-up saying that an update was available. And I thought, this is kind of interesting. I actually thought perhaps this is the North American version arriving in some weird way. So I went ahead and downloaded it and installed it, and it installed just fine. But I shortly realized this is not the case. I just got another update on the Indian channel. I was under the impression that would only be a thing that would happen if I manually checked in the Oxygen Updater app. But instead, this came straight through the system settings and installed as if it was a normal update. Kind of odd, but I guess now I know what to expect going forward. But what's cool is that means I have a whole bunch of new features to show you guys that will be arriving on your OnePlus Open sometime in the next, I don't know, few weeks, few months, something like that. So let's take a look at all the new features in the latest update for the OnePlus Open. And in case you're keeping score, we're talking about 14.0.0.600. One that isn't on the list that I'll add really quickly here in the beginning is that. It just says ultra fast charging all the time now. If I'm not mistaken, it did not look like that before. So we're going to start off inside the Photos application, which I actually just told you guys in another video, just got a really cool feature where it can actually sync with Google Photos. So all these photos you're seeing are not actually on my device, they're syncing through Google Photos. That is very cool. Apparently, you can now create photo collages without frames. So we're going to see if we can figure out how to do that. We're going to select a couple of pictures, and let's see, create is probably the option, and collage is going to be the one. And you can see here it is downloading these photos from my Google Photos account to make them local. And now you should have a few options here, template, poster, and stitch. So stitch might be the new one. I must admit I've not actually played with this thing before, but when they say without frames, I kind of imagine they're talking about that thing going on there. So maybe that's what they mean. I'm not exactly sure. Perhaps you've played around with this more than I have. I'm not really a big collage making person, but they say you cannot make collages without frames and photos. So again, perhaps that's what they're referring to. For the next one, we need to turn on the smart sidebar, which I usually don't use, but there's a new feature there for us to play around with. We can do a partial screenshot option in the smart sidebar. So I don't know if I have to do anything else to enable it. Let's drag this thing over. And it looks like what we need to do is click on edit. And there is now this partial screenshot button, which you can add. And if you click on that, what's going to happen is, that's pretty cool actually. This is basically like the Windows snipping tool. I think I like this. You can draw a square, and there is your screenshot. The next one, if we go to additional settings and then gestures and motions, turn on/off flashlight with volume button. So when the screen is off, press and hold the volume down button, and you'll actually be able to turn on the flashlight. As you can see, that was on, and now we're back off again. Personally, I don't know that I'm going to use this one because I do really like that, screen off gesture functionality, which I think works really well, but that is a cool alternative to that. This next one says you can now enter the first letter of an app name to perform a fuzzy search from the home screen search bar in drawer mode. I'm assuming they mean this search here, and if I click on that, I guess what I can do is type in a letter and it's going to search for that particular app. I feel like that was already there before. Maybe I'm missing something on this one as well. These descriptions are often kind of vague, but that's the best I can kind of come up with. But again, I think that was already there. Moving on to the next one, you can probably see that a bug that has been driving me slightly crazy persists. My color, my theme color has just sort of changed itself at random, so that's pretty cool. We're going to address that really quickly. Let's go back to the one that I had it set as, and now we're going to go back into sound and vibration because we're looking for an option, yes indeed, app-specific volume. This is really quite cool. And like a dummy, I cleared that out really quickly and I can't get it to come back up, but I can kind of demonstrate this to you. So this is a video that I took the other day, and if it's playing, you'll see a couple of things. First off, that's an entirely new look to the volume bar there, so that's also new. But you can click on this little thing here, and you can change the media volume separately from Google Photos volume. Again, this is a thing we've seen on some other devices like Samsung devices, but now it is built into the OnePlus Open. I think that's a pretty cool one. If we jump into the camera and we look at our zoom over here, I'm pretty sure this is a new one as well. As we go through these, you can see 24 millimeter, 47, 70, 145. It's actually showing the focal length there as you change your zoom. Another thing, if we go into the X-Pan mode, we now have the option to use our different zoom lenses. We can now use the ultra wide and the telephoto in that X-Pan mode. Now they say that they have also increased the shutter response and improved the snapshot experience. So hopefully that means taking photos very, very quickly maybe will require using the action mode a little bit less than before. And one more thing, when you're shooting a video, you now have this zoom wheel to quickly switch between different zoom levels. This is a pretty big improvement. If I'm remembering correctly, before it was a lot clunkier than that. So that's a great one to see also. So I grabbed a screenshot of the full changelog here in Oxygen Updater because that's the only place I could find the changelog again. And you can see all the things that I went over and how they were worded. Again, there were a couple in this video that I'm not 100% sure that I'm correct about what that change was, like the collages without frames. I think that I showed you the correct thing, the fuzzy search in the home screen search bar, but maybe you guys seeing the text, maybe you can correct me on some of these and say, oh no, actually they were talking about this other thing, but I think I'm pretty close. Overall, I think that this is a pretty substantial update, especially considering it's coming hot on the heels of the Android 14 update. This is much more in line with what I want to see OnePlus doing, producing more consistent updates with consistent changes and new features. Now look, I'm not advocating for changes for the sake of changes, but if you can keep adding functionality to this thing, that's going to be really, really nice to see. We're watching devices like the Z Fold 5 get all of the S24 AI features delivered to it already. OnePlus, you got to do some stuff to keep up, and maybe we'll talk about those AI features for OnePlus on the open device here in the near future as well. And like I alluded to earlier in this video, I don't really know specifically like when this update is going to be arriving on other people's devices. When it came to Android 14, it launched in India. I think fully it began rolling out a couple of days or a few days before North America ended up getting it. But then people in the UK, in the EU, they did not get that update for a long time later, like a couple of weeks. So I would maybe expect a similar rollout pattern for this one as well. If you're in North America, you may start seeing this very, very soon. Who knows? You may already be seeing this. At any rate, though, guys, those are the new features in 14.0.0.600 on the OnePlus Open. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.